I'm Jessica, 30, from Tampa, Florida. My fiancé Adam and I had been together for 5 years. We'd gone through everything, moving states, job changes, even a short breakup, but we always came back stronger. A few months before our wedding, Adam told me he got a promotion at his finance firm. It came with longer hours and a company phone, which he said he needed to keep work separate. I didn't question it. The first time Adam showed me his new company phone, it was sleek and black with the firm's logo etched on the back. This stays on 24/7, he explained, his face serious as he placed it carefully on our kitchen counter. Henderson says I need to be available for our international clients. I nodded, proud of him. After years of him grinding away at mid-level positions, someone finally recognized his talent. Our routine shifted gradually. Date nights became shorter, weekend brunches turned into quick coffee catch-ups before he'd disappear to handle some emails. I adjusted, believing this was temporary, just another hurdle in our relationship that we'd overcome together. Once the Anderson account settles, things will calm down, he'd promise, kissing my forehead before disappearing into our spare bedroom to take another call. I'd hear his professional voice through the door, confident and assured. That voice made me fall in love with him at Lauren's rooftop party 5 years ago, the way he commanded attention without demanding it. At first, the second phone seemed legitimate. He'd check it mostly in the evening, scrolling through what looked like charts and numbers. Markets and clients, he'd explain vaguely when I peered over his shoulder. The blue light from the screen cast shadows on his face as he hunched over it late at night while I drifted off to sleep alone. But 3 months before our wedding day, something shifted. The phone was never left unattended. Never. Not on the bathroom counter while he showered, not on the nightstand while he slept. It was always in his pocket or his hand. Always on silent, though it seemed to vibrate frequently. Just work, he'd say dismissively, stepping outside our apartment to take calls. Sometimes he'd be gone for 40 minutes, returning with vague explanations about client emergencies. I tried to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. Was I being paranoid? We had 126 guests confirmed for our September wedding. My mother had already flown in twice from Chicago for dress fittings. Adam's parents had put down a non-refundable deposit on the rehearsal dinner venue. One evening, I was curled up on our couch when Adam rushed in, loosening his tie. Forgot the Henderson file, he muttered, disappearing into our home office. When he emerged, he kissed me quickly. Dinner meeting. Don't wait up. Again. I tried to keep my voice light. That's the third one this week. That's the job, Jess. His tone carried a hint of irritation that stung. We talked about this. The promotion comes with responsibilities. I nodded, swallowing the question that lingered on my tongue. Why don't you ever invite me to these dinners? Other partners brought their significant others occasionally. I'd met them at the holiday party, heard their stories about networking over expensive wine. 2 months before the wedding, my best friend Mia voiced what I'd been trying to ignore. We were having lunch at our favorite bistro when she set down her fork and looked at me intently. Jess, is everything okay with you and Adam? You seem distant lately. I stirred my untouched pasta. He's just busy with work. She didn't sound convinced. Ryan says he saw Adam downtown last week, at that new cocktail bar on 7th, said he was with some colleagues. My heart skipped. Yeah, probably a work thing. At midnight on a Tuesday? I changed the subject, but her words lingered. The next morning, I casually mentioned to Adam that Ryan had seen him downtown. Oh yeah, he said without looking up from his breakfast. Henderson wanted to celebrate landing the Peterson account. Told you about that? He hadn't, but I nodded anyway. One Saturday in late July, just 6 weeks before our wedding, Adam rushed out for a haircut. Can't be shaggy for the Morgan meeting Monday, he explained, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. He was halfway out the door when his personal phone rang. He answered, spoke briefly, then hung up. That was the barber, he said. They can take me now if I hurry. He rushed out, and that's when I noticed it, the company phone lying on the kitchen counter. In his haste, he'd forgotten it. I stared at it for several minutes, my heart pounding. I wouldn't snoop. That wasn't who we were. We trusted each other. 5 years, countless challenges overcome together, a future mapped out. Trust was our foundation. Then the screen lit up. I didn't even touch it. The preview message was enough. Don't forget to tell her you're canceling the wedding this week. The sender's name, Chloe. My stomach dropped to the floor. The room seemed to tilt sideways. I grabbed the counter for support, my engagement ring catching the morning light, suddenly feeling heavy and foreign on my finger. With trembling hands, I picked up the phone. No password required. Either he trusted me completely or, more likely, he never imagined he'd leave it behind. The messaging app revealed hundreds of texts, not just with this Chloe, but with 2 other women, Melissa and Amanda. These weren't casual flirtations or one-time mistakes. They were ongoing, long-term affairs. Detailed arrangements for dinners, hotel meetings, weekend getaways disguised as business trips. I scrolled, each message like a physical blow. I miss holding you, he'd written to Amanda 3 days ago, the same night he'd told me he was working late. Just a few more weeks and we can stop hiding, he'd promised Melissa. And to Chloe, just yesterday, I've figured it out. I'll tell Jessica the firm is sending me to London for 2 years. She won't want to come. It's the perfect out. I felt physically ill. The texts dated back over a year, starting shortly after our engagement. While I'd been sampling wedding cakes and choosing floral arrangements, he'd been living multiple lives. There were photos too. Selfies of him with these women at restaurants I recognized, places he'd told me were client meetings. Pictures of weekend trips that had supposedly been guys' retreats or team-building exercises. And then I found something that chilled me to the bone, a folder labeled, "Do Not Open," that contained saved pictures of me. Screenshots of my social media posts about wedding preparations. Photos of us together that he'd apparently shared with these women, with comments attached, almost free from this, and the mistake I'm fixing soon. I sat there for an hour, methodically going through everything, building a complete picture of his betrayal. There were even discussions about what he'd do with our apartment, how he'd divide our shared possessions. He'd planned everything, except for me discovering the truth. I didn't call him. I didn't throw the phone against the wall like I wanted to. I didn't scream, though my insides were burning. Instead, I made myself a cup of tea. I sat at our kitchen island, the phone placed squarely in the center, and waited. When Adam returned 90 minutes later, his hair freshly cut, he froze in the doorway. His eyes went from my face to the phone on the counter. I watched the color drain from his face. "Jess," he started, his voice a strangled whisper. I raised my hand, silencing him. "If you wanted to cancel the wedding," I said with a steadiness that surprised even me, "you should have just said so." He stepped forward, panic in his eyes. "I can explain. 3 women, Adam. 3 separate relationships while planning a wedding with me." My voice was eerily calm. "Were you going to tell me about London before or after our honeymoon?" He sank into the chair across from me, head in his hands. "It's complicated," he murmured. "Actually, it's quite simple," I replied, sliding his phone toward him. "We're done." That night, after Adam had packed an overnight bag and left for a hotel, or more likely, one of his girlfriend's places, I sat alone in our apartment, our home that suddenly felt like a museum of lies. Photos of us from happier times seemed to mock me from the walls. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I made a list. By morning, I had my plan. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't beg for explanations. I wouldn't destroy his belongings or make dramatic social media posts. No, my response would be far more calculated. First, I texted all 3 women from his phone, short, polite messages. I thought you deserved to know who else he was promising a life to. I attached screenshots of his conversations with the other women, evidence that none of them were the only one, as he'd apparently claimed to each. Then I forwarded every incriminating text to my own phone, creating a digital record of his deception. Next, I called our wedding venue and explained the situation. The sympathetic manager offered to return half of our deposit, which was more than I'd expected. The caterer was less flexible, but my maid of honor Mia knew someone there who helped reduce the cancellation fee. I returned my wedding dress to the boutique. The owner, a kind woman named Eleanor who had spent hours helping me find the perfect gown, made an exception to their no-refund policy when I explained why. "Honey," she'd said, squeezing my hand, "I've been where you are. This isn't the end of your story." With the recovered funds, I did something Adam would never expect. I booked myself a 10-day trip to Maui. The honeymoon destination we decided against because Adam had insisted on Europe instead. 3 days after discovering the truth, while Adam bombarded me with calls and messages I didn't answer, I walked into his office building during lunch hour. I hadn't planned this part, but something inside me needed closure. I spotted him in the lobby, talking with 2 colleagues. When he saw me, he quickly excused himself and rushed over. "Jess, please," he began, his eyes darting around nervously. "Can we talk somewhere private?" "No need," I said, my voice steady. "I just came to give you this." I handed him a manila envelope containing copies of the key to our apartment and a detailed list of which furniture items belonged to whom. "I'll be gone for 10 days, I informed him. "When I return, I expect your things to be moved out." His face crumpled. "Where are you going?" "Maui," I replied. "Turns out I didn't need you to have my dream vacation after all." As I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm. "Wait, did you contact them? Chloe and the others?" I looked pointedly at his hand until he released me. "You should probably check your sent messages," I said quietly. "It seems your elaborate plan has some unexpected complications." The look of horror that crossed his face almost made me feel sorry for him. Almost. Walking out of that building was the first moment I felt the weight lifting. Not gone, the pain was still raw and throbbing, but lighter somehow. That evening, my phone exploded with notifications. Adam, of course, but also messages from unknown numbers. The women had found me. Their tones ranged from apologetic to accusatory, but each confirmed what I already knew. Adam had been weaving a complex web of lies, playing all of us against each other while pretending to be committed to each one. Melissa, it turned out, believed she was his primary girlfriend who he was working up the courage to leave his controlling fiancée for. Amanda thought they were in the early stages of dating, though he promised her exclusivity. And Chloe believed she was his high school sweetheart who he'd reconnected with, the one who got away, that he was finally ready to build a life with. I answered none of them. Their anger wasn't meant for me. Instead, I focused on practical matters. I contacted our wedding guests, crafting a brief, dignified email explaining that the wedding had been cancelled. I didn't provide details, they'd inevitably hear rumors soon enough. The night before my flight to Maui, Mia came over with wine and Chinese takeout. As we sat on my apartment floor among half-packed suitcases, the reality of what had happened finally hit me. "I almost married him," I whispered, tears finally streaming down my face. "I almost tied myself forever to someone who could do this." Mia held me while I sobbed, 5 years of memories crumbling around me. The pain was excruciating, but beneath it, something else was emerging: relief. Relief that I'd discovered the truth before vows were exchanged. Relief that his mask had slipped before we bought a house together or had children. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, wiping my eyes. "Part of me still loves the person I thought he was." "That person never existed," Mia said gently. "He was always this calculating." She was right. The man I loved had been a character all along, a performance designed to get what he wanted. The next morning, I boarded my flight to Maui. As the plane took off, leaving Tampa behind, I didn't look back. I didn't get the wedding I'd spent a year planning. I didn't get the happily ever after I'd convinced myself was waiting. But I got something more valuable, the truth. And with it, my freedom from a life built on deception, from a future that would have eventually crumbled under the weight of so many lies. On my first night in Maui, standing on the beach watching the sunset, I removed my engagement ring and held it in my palm. 5 years of memories, both beautiful and false, glinted in the diamond's facets. With a deep breath, I slipped it into the small pocket of my sundress. I wouldn't throw it into the ocean in some dramatic gesture. I'd sell it when I got home and use the money to start fresh. Adam texted me that evening, "We need to talk." I made a terrible mistake. I didn't respond. Some betrayals are beyond conversation. Some wounds won't heal with explanations. Instead, I turned off my phone and watched as the Hawaiian sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow would be another day, the first of many in my unexpected new beginning. The future I'd planned had vanished, but in its place lay unlimited possibilities, unmarred by deception. I didn't know what came next. For the first time in years, my path wasn't tied to someone else's. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. I didn't get the wedding. But I got the truth, and my freedom.